You're listening to the Musicians Help Desk podcast, brought to you by the Music District. Yo, this is Alicia. You've tuned in for a conversation between host Erin Roberts and 7S music manager Nate Meese. Nate basically destroys every stereotype of a music manager that I've entertained in this life. Although he does admit to wearing a headset for phone conversations, he actually knows what it's like to spend a night broken down in a gas station parking lot in a band van. You're listening to a band that Nate used to play in with his brother called the Centennial. And though he modestly defers his creative contribution to the Still Tide, he holds down the bass as well as manages that band. As you'll soon find out, there's not much he hasn't done in the business. His story and experience, as it gently unfolds via conversation with Erin Roberts, is this week's edition of the Help Desk.
Today we welcome Nate Meese to the Musicians Help Desk podcast. We're here in the Red Room of the Music District on a very cold but beautiful night in Fort Collins to talk mostly about music management. Welcome, Nate.
Thanks for having me, Erin.
So to call you just a music manager really wouldn't be giving listeners the full scope of what you do. You've been a musician for years and years and years. You played with Meese, Navy, Nathaniel Rateliff, Brent Coles, Still Tide, just to name a few. You've worked tech jobs for touring bands. You're a great graphic designer with a really unique, very recognizable style. And you also work full-time in music management.
Yep.
Are you tired?
Thanks for having me. Okay, see ya.
Yeah. And goodbye. Good night.
I'm not tired. Not today. Some days I am.
Tell me about the beginnings of being inspired by music. How did you get started in the music industry, period?
It's kind of been the only thing I've really been interested in since I was a kid. Musical family, kind of typical story that way.
Your parents played music?
Yeah, my mom is a singer from Cleveland. We're all from Cleveland, all the Meeses. We all live in Denver now, but grew up in Cleveland. My mom was a singer, still is a singer. Her band was called Annie Mac and the Cleveland Express.
Wow, what kind of music did she play?
I think they mostly just did like kind of standards and like soul covers and stuff. She had a couple originals. So she did that, and then my dad...
Did she take you around to shows? Like, do you remember seeing her perform?
No, this was like 70s. This was before I was born. But
you ruined everything for her, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Sorry,
she chose children over the Cleveland Express. Time has yet to determine if that was the right move.
You'll find out in her will.
Yeah, I'm on the edge of my seat. No, she decided to have kids, and that kind of started taking up that part of her life. But she's, it worked out because she was able to translate all that experience and skill and stuff to her kids, and so my mom had the musical part down, and then my dad has always been a great business person. My parents had this great idea to have like a family activity where we were going to start a band. At least that's how I remember it. And my Uncle Mike MacDonald, on my mom's side, Uncle Mike, worked at a music store and like gave us a hookup on like a drum set and a electric guitar and a bass and a PA system. Basically everything you would need to like start a garage band. And the
this
idea...
This is an awesome family experience.
I'm very lucky.
I need to make the Meese family movie.
Oh man, it would probably be very entertaining. No, I can't stress how lucky I've been in my whole life to have the parents that I've had who've just been so encouraging since I was, forever, since my entire life. I owe a lot to them. So they bought all this stuff, and we were supposed to have this awesome band. And then my dad never learned how to play bass.
Dad?
I'd say that to his face. It's okay. And then, my mom was busy raising a family.
Maniacs, might I add.
2 little maniacs, 2 Scottish wild childs. And then, so all this stuff was just in the basement, and then Pat and I just kind of figured out how to play everything. Pat more so than I. I'm guitar and bass. I could play little keys. yeah, there's all that stuff in the basement. So we learned how to do everything. We learned how to work a PA. You know, we like found kids in the neighborhood that could play other instruments and like started our first band when I was like 10, I think.
What was that called?
It had a lot of names. I think the first band I can remember, Pat actually started a band without me with his older cool friends, and they were called the Stick People.
That's a good name.
And we had like a big whiteboard in our basement, and Pat like drew like a logo of like Stick People.
He's the older brother?
He's 18 months older.
Okay.
Yeah. Which doesn't sound like a lot older, but psychologically, it's a lot older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he's smaller, so it's confusing.
People always ask me who would win in a fight, and we've actually never been in a fist fight.
God.
I would totally win, though. Yeah, so, you know, Pat and I have been doing band stuff since we were little kids, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And we owe it all to our parents. But,
It
like I
seems
was saying, like, with my dad not playing music of his own, his influence has just been, like, showing us cool music. So, like, the first show I ever went to was the Allman Brothers, when, like, most of the OGs were still alive and playing.
Wow.
And I was like 10 or something. And that my dad would just always blast Allman Brothers at the house. And that's kind of how I learned how to guitar solo.
Can you
And then-
imagine, like, the days of our youth when kids had to learn a guitar solo by just listening to it or buying a book somewhere or a magazine? I mean, everything's so accessible now with...
Well, what do people do? I don't even know.
They watch YouTube videos
yeah.
and they Google the crap out of songs. I think YouTube is a really big thing.
Yeah, that's funny. I don't associate that with learning music. I mean, I would now. You know, I just do the ear stuff. I can't read music. Mm-hmm. I've always, you know, like I want to do this because it's fun, and reading music was never fun to me. What I do is like I get out my notebook, and I listen to the songs, and I write out what the intro is, what the verse is, what the pre-chorus is, and chorus and the bridge. And just write out like C, G, D, A minor, C, G, whatever. And then I listen to the songs for like 2 days, and then I just play.
It's in there.
Yeah.
It's in there. Interesting. Okay, let's go back in time.
Okay.
Okay, you had this great family, musical family. You and Pat experimenting him a little bit without you. But then at some point you came back together and you formed Meese.
Right. So finished high school. We weren't in bands for a couple of years, and we finished high school in different places. And then I ended up going to Ohio University.
Okay.
Go Bobcats.
Where's that?
In Athens, Ohio.
Okay.
The Harvard of the Midwest.
Thank you, if you will.
Yeah. It's a really pretty town and a pretty good school, but I wasn't doing anything. And I was like going to class and stuff, but I knew that like once high school was over, I was like, I don't have to do this anymore.
You had the schools out forever.
Forever. And I knew I didn't want to do it anymore. And again, the most, gracious, inspiring parents were just like, cool, like drop out of school and like
Don't do it.
Do music. So Pat was going to college in Lakewood, Colorado at the time, and was like sending me demos of stuff that he was recording like after hours at the music program that he was in, and they were really good. And like in so many words, like he sent me demos and I like dropped out of school and moved out here to play music.
Awesome.
It wasn't that simple,
Of course.
as it never is, but like that's basically what happened.
And that's really how Meese formed then.
That's-
Was that the precursor to
Yeah,
the
so we
band
did
forming?
like I moved out here on January 5th, 2005, maybe.
Wow.
I remember the day. We lived in Lakewood at like near Alameda and Wadsworth.
Wow.
Really just
At that time there was nothing
There was-
happening.
no.
Maybe there might still
I had
not
never had
be.
Chipotle before. So that's all I was stoked that there was a Chipotle there. But, the cultural mecca of Colorado, Wadsworth and Alameda.
I wish we could. I'm gonna make a map in this podcast. Hey, listeners, go follow the map to Wadsworth and Alameda.
Yeah.
Google view that. Street view that.
It's before there was like a Whole Foods there. There was just like nothing. There was just like a parking lot. But whatever. I don't want to be one of those Denver people that's just like, oh man,
Everything's terrible.
it used to be so cool. Nah, but apartments suck. Moved out here and then started the band with Pat. We did like 2 shows as the Patrick Meese Band.
Oh, that's not fair to you at all, is it?
Well, I think he was like, testing my loyalty
Uh-huh.
maybe at the
He's
I'm
like, are
kidding.
you in? How much
Yeah.
are you in? What if we call it Patrick Meese?
Yeah. Then we switched it over to Meese.
So cool. Was he the main songwriter for the band? Did you contribute?
Pat wrote all the tunes. I would write parts and stuff,
Cool.
like guitar parts, and help him write. That's always kind of been my role, is like helping other people write music more than like writing my own stuff.
You had a major label, is that right?
Yeah, we signed to Atlantic. It's kind of like during the piano band boom of 2005 or whatever. We were lucky enough to be buds with the Frey guys, and they were always super nice and would take us out on tour and stuff. So they were pretty influential and just a really big help as far as like, we were kids, man. We were like 20. I think we signed to Atlantic when I was like 22 or something. So
That's crazy.
That like older brother stuff from the Frey was super helpful.
What was a favorite song that you played in Meese?
I don't know. I thought I liked a lot of them. It was fun because it was like Pat's tunes, so I could be like a little.
Would it be easier to say which of Pat's tunes you hated the most?
I never liked the song "Breakout."
Okay, that's the one we'll link to.
The guitar part was cool.
But Pat, your song sucked.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. And,
Try harder.
so I'm trying to figure out, a lot of these questions I'm asking you are like trajectory things. You started out as this kid in Cleveland with cool parents and an awesome older brother. Made your label band early on. And now you're working more in music management and performance. How much of the music management part were you doing for Meese at the time?
Not a lot. You can't. I mean, it's so many different skills all in one package that like it's hard to explain what it is like in a sentence or two. A big part of it is just being tech savvy and like design savvy. Like knowing your way around a computer and like knowing how to really advertise your band. Make sure your stuff looks better than everybody else's. So like really knowing the Adobe program, like, knowing Photoshop and Illustrator is super important. So I think that's...
but that wasn't even probably really a thing when you were in Meese.
It was because I had to make the website and like I made all the flyers and I made our logo and I made, like...
Did you have any training in the Creative Suite before that, or did you learn it?
I just taught myself. I just stole Photoshop and when I was a sophomore in high school and just taught myself how to do it.
I'm jumping ahead a little bit because I want to know after Meese what ended that band and what came next for you.
We got dropped from our label after our record came out. A bunch of people that worked on the record got fired. It happens every day. It's not like a unique story. And, we kind of like swung for the fences and it didn't work. And then Pat and I started another band called The Centennial, which was, I still think, some of the best stuff Pat's ever written.
I am a huge fan of The Centennial and beautiful, beautiful songwriting.
Yeah, I feel like Pat really learned a lot from songwriting with Meese, where it's just like writing for other people, and Centennial was like what he wanted it to be all along. So we did that for a while, and then that's kind of when we started also being like hired guns. So Pat started playing with Nathaniel at that point, and then I started playing with Churchill at that point, and that's when that part of our careers started.
It seems like really, when I think about the trajectory of artists in Denver that are kind of making it, it seems like people that have like branched out and not had one specific band, but have been more like the session player, have been pretty successful.
No, I agree. I mean, you have to be able to adapt, and like the people that want to do this for a living, make it work.
Was that hard for you going from a situation where you had this very cohesive band to being more the hired gun?
Yeah, in some ways. In other ways, it's kind of a relief, too, because you don't have as much pressure, and other people have to make the tough decisions. And then as long as you, like, show up and do your job, it's, it's kind of easier that way.
How did all of this translate into music management? When I first got to know you, we were both working at the same management company, 7S Management. How did you get into that line of work?
So 7S is run by three... guys, Chris Tetzelli, Alex Brawl, and Brian Schwartz. Alex managed Meese, and I've known him for 13 years now or something. Wow. And so after I've been doing the hired gun thing for a really long time, and I was bartending And I saw Alex, and he was like, "Hey man, you should come work at 7S." And it was that simple.
You had like a dirty bar glass in one hand. You're like, when can I start?
Yeah. No, it's just kind of, it was good timing. Everyone there's been like super, super great to me and to Pat as well. And yeah, it was that simple. And then it was, it's one of those jobs where it's not like they give you like a handbook on how to do everything.
The manual?
Yeah, there isn't one. But, I've been around.
Yeah.
And I know, I like to think that I've had kind of most of the jobs you can have in the music industry outside of like label stuff.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I think a lot of music managers don't have any experience playing in bands.
Which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing for certain people.
Mm-hmm.
But I like knowing that like I've been in the van when it breaks down at 3 a.m. and you just have to like sleep at a gas station,
So you've been on that end of the phone call,
yeah,
the phone call to the manager.
Yeah, I have like the human elements pretty on lock. So
you've done actually 2 stints at 7S. You were there and then took a break, and you were managing some bands on your own. And in that interim, you started managing Denver-based band Wilderness. When you first started managing them, they were incredibly new to the scene. I think they'd only had a handful of shows. You were working alongside Joe Richmond at the time, and it seemed like this all-encompassing package of services that the two of you provided them with management and recording. Joe helped produce the album. Was this different from other management experiences you had in the past, like the ability to be involved in the recording process and the final process so intimately?
Yeah, I guess so. I think that was kind of the appeal of Joe and I working together in that respect.
What did you see in them that made you want to take the risk to manage a band? Because it's a lot of work with possibly no payout.
Yeah, but I mean, they're just undeniable. I think anyone that sees the band like gets it right away.
Yeah.
I would be more interested to hear like why someone wouldn't think that they're going to be a big band.
Yeah.
You're
like, am I right? Am I right?
I don't even need to like say that. It's so obvious to me that, and really that's how it started. And then like when Joe and I first sat down with them for the first time, it was like, oh, and they're also like really nice people, and they're clearly hardworking, and they take it seriously, and they want to do this. I mean, that's what you want as a manager. You want someone that's going to work as hard as you do,
Yeah.
And that's who they are. They're great musicians. They're like super friendly and nice. They're professional.
Yeah, we interviewed Wilderness for one of our first podcasts, and Alicia and I were really blown away by like the drive and the professionalism and kind of the way they took themselves seriously in a way that bands and musicians are so reluctant to do. Mm-hmm. They're like, yes, this is our thing. We're proud of it. We write good songs. They have a confidence that it really blew me away.
Yeah.
It was really cool to be around.
Well, when you're doing stuff the right way, it's like, why would you not be confident?
How do you know you're doing stuff? No, you know it when you are.
I mean, if you don't know that you're doing it the right way, then you're doing it the wrong way. Does that make sense?
Okay, well, then how do you... I think there are a lot of bands out there that are like, I am nailing it. I am doing it the right way. And we have trouble at the Music District.
So how do you gauge that, right?
Yeah, how do you know? As a musician, how do you know if you've got it right?
Well, you need to be able to be honest with yourself. And you need to be able to take a step back and see yourself how other people see you. I think it's interesting, like, a lot of musicians, I think, and I was the same way, where you start, like, at some point in every musician's, like, trajectory, you have that moment of, like, someone, like, gave you praise because you did something, and they liked it. If it's your mom when you're 9 years old, you're like, oh, I'm good at this. And, like, people like it when I play music. And then you can make it as complicated as you want, but it's, like, just everyone's just trying to get back there to that initial feeling of, like, of
they like me.
Yeah. And like I can think of so many people that would disagree with that statement right now. Most people play music to play it in front of other people. I mean, I think the way that you gauge it and how you can tell if you're doing well, Spotify makes it pretty fucking clear if people are listening to your music or not. And then playing shows, like
Show
people
attendance.
either go to them or they don't. It's like you can make it complicated, but it doesn't need to be. So people that are doing it and that are successful, and the people that have that confidence are willing to be honest with themselves and be like, oh, maybe the song doesn't rule, and maybe there's a reason there are only 7 people at my show, and then like turn it around on yourself and like, what can you do better? What can you do better? Rather than like turning it around and like blaming, like especially with bands from Colorado, where it's like, well, we're on an island out here, and the scene is just like so like deleted and blah. It's like don't make excuses. Just like write better.
Be
tunes.
better.
Yeah.
Just be better.
Yes.
We have a lot of people come in here wanting to know, like, I'm ready for a manager, or like, I'm ready to build my team out, and they might be ready or they might not be ready. What if their music was good? Could you see like some other things that they would need to work on before you would manage the band?
That's a good question. I mean, I can attest to people saying that they want a manager before they need one.
At what point do you think bands need a manager?
When you're completely out of ideas and you don't know what else to do for your band.
You've booked all the venues. You know how to book all the tours.
Whatever it is. Like I was saying earlier, if you're being honest with yourself and you've done everything that you can possibly do and you don't know what else to do, and you start getting emails in that like you don't know how to answer, that kind of thing, that's when you start leaning on somebody. Up until then, like, do everything yourself.
Do you feel like managers mostly find bands? It seems to me a futile effort for a band to go in search of a manager.
Yes, I would totally agree with
Like if you're at that level, a manager
they'll find you.
will find you. What should bands look for or look out for? If someone approaches them.
I mean, it's not black and white. It's hard to say. Like if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. Mm-hmm. If someone like starts promising you stuff right away, that's probably bullshit. And if they
right, because there's no promises in anything. It's kind of like we just had a conversation with a PR person, and they're like, if any PR person promises you press, they're lying.
Yeah.
Like,
we could do a whole podcast about that.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. I guess just follow your instincts and find other bands that you like what they're doing, and try to become friends with them. I think that's how music scenes happen.
How do you describe what you do? Like if when your mom asks you, what do you do for Wilderness?
I'm an artist manager.
Yeah, but what is that?
I manage the artist.
Do they manage you or no?
In a way, they manage me.
It's a 360 relationship.
No, I don't. It's hard to explain.
Like, tell me about a day. You're on the phone a lot.
I'm on the phone a lot. I have one of those headsets now.
You have a headset?
That guy.
Yes. Do you pace around?
I cross my arms and I walk around the building.
Do you hang up before you use the restroom, or sometimes do you just go,
I don't
take the call?
Dude, phones in the bathroom, never okay.
But you have the headset.
Not at home, not at work. Just do your thing and then go get back on Instagram.
Okay, so there's one thing we know about your job. You don't take calls in the bathroom. I mean, you like
anything else you need to know?
Yeah, like who do you call? I mean, I think I know, but I think a lot of people are completely like a lot of people that come in wanting management, they have no idea. And part of this goes into the question like on how people build teams. They think like, do music managers, do they book my tours? Do they do the PR for me? And I know that there's a lot of variation in that depending on the size of the management company.
It depends on where the band's at a lot. Mm-hmm. So for certain bands, it seems like sometimes the bigger the band, the more just kind of like facilitating you do and just pointing things in the right direction. And sometimes you get a band that's just kind of on autopilot and it's been doing it for a long time. And
you field the calls.
Well, that's part of it.
Not in the bathroom.
I feel like you have the answer here, and you just want me to say it. Like some bands, like they've had the same tour manager forever, and they've had the same team around them, and at that point, that's when it's fun, and you can kind of like think big picture and really think about cool things to do with the career and stuff. With smaller bands, it could be everything. Some bands I do like Facebook posts and all the artwork.
Kind of like what you were saying earlier, you like make sure the look and the feel of the band is right as it's going out into the world.
That's so important, man.
The shows that they're playing are the right ones.
Yeah.
Do you work pretty closely with the tour manager on making sure that the shows are representative and in the right kind of places for the band?
Well, that's more of like a booking agent thing. Tour manager is like, that's the hardest job in the music industry. And I love a good TM. Will Pepple, Chrissy Gross, James Dean. Like, it's the hardest, most unforgiving job. And it's like boots on the ground, just making the sausage every day. Managers work with booking agents to kind of like put together tours and like route everything. So that's more of like the big picture thing.
And do you make strategic choices? Like, we'll use Wilderness as an example because they're a pretty new band. Like, coming up onto this next summer season, would it be your job to look kind of at the landscape of festivals and determine, like, well, yeah, we're going to throw y'all in a club tour, or we're going to go for these big festivals? Or does that really lie with the booking agent as well?
It kind of depends. Like, we don't have a booking agent right now. We'd like to have one soon, but it, like this past summer, it was kind of like what you're just saying, where it's, well, what I like to do and what I think is a good practice is like working backwards from a goal. So with Wilderness, I knew we wanted to write music all summer, but also like keep the momentum and vibe going. So I just started emailing around Colorado and like found a bunch of great opportunities and, like put together, I guess if this is supposed to be like helpful for other people that want to do this.
Well, we hope.
I think I just realized.
Wait, is this supposed to be helpful? Yes, Nate.
Is this on? What does that red light mean?
It means you will self-destruct in 30 seconds.
No, I mean, I put together, like Wilderness is great because we've had a lot of like good momentum in Denver. So I put together like a kind of a one sheet and was able to kind of shop it around and like keep us busy in Colorado all summer while they were writing. But, I started working on that almost a year ago because I knew that's what we were going to do. So now the new thing is like I would like to have, it's the same with Still Tide, the other band I managed in Denver. It's like I want to have new music out kind of like late spring, early summer. So now we're working backwards from that. So like, what does that look like? Well, we want to have a single out by the end of the year. Work backwards from that. What do you need to do for that? We need a music video. Like,
there are a lot of emergent bands in this area, locally and regionally, that I think may never have a manager, and they're going to have to do it themselves, or it might be a long time until they're poised, or you just don't know. But I think it's good for people that don't have the support of the larger institution to kind of know how it all works, because people are forced to be their own.
Well, and that's why you shouldn't exactly. That's why you shouldn't get a manager. So you learn how it works. So that when you do get a manager, you can tell when they're screwing something up. Like if you don't know how the whole process works and all you want to do is just like write music and just like be an artist, then you better be the best fucking artist in the world that doesn't have to learn that stuff. Because otherwise, like, what are you doing? Like, you need to understand. I just don't know why you would think it could happen to you if you didn't understand every small part of it. If you want to do it for a living, that's, you need to understand how a show works. And you need to understand how a show gets booked. And you need to know how everyone gets paid.
And how it gets promoted.
And
why people show up.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to wrap this up because I know that you have two bands here in town tonight. We're in Fort Collins, and you want to say a little bit about the night?
I manage Heather Maloney, who's an artist out of, she's from, West Massachusetts. She's a folk singer. She's got 4 really great records out.
You know what I know about Heather? She's smaller than I had anticipated. she's very, just like a miniature human. And I know that she bought a sweater today so she could look more Colorado because she got off the airplane from Western Mass and was like, I don't have the right look for Colorado. And she got a sweater it's a very beautiful sweater. But then it made me wonder, what do you wear if you're from Western Mass? I'm going to do some research. This is a hypothetical question. Please don't answer. Okay.
I think maybe like overalls, like Carhartts. I don't know.
I'm sure she'd appreciate that.
I don't know, man.
I don't think Heather got off the plane in overalls and then changed into the sweater. I think it was layered on top of
We'll give her the benefit of the doubt.
Western Mass
right now.
undergarments.
Whatever those look like. I guess we could Google it right now. Hold on, let me.
Browns and grays. Western Mass.
Autumnal. Heather is playing Magic Rat tonight,
Awesome.
which is an amazing venue. We just had Wilderness and Still Tide up there back in April, maybe.
Amazing venue and a new music themed hotel here in Fort
So
Collins.
cool. Like Fort Collins just blows my mind. I've been playing here for over a decade, and like the transformation over the past couple of years has been awesome. So Heather's playing there solo. She's like doing a little Colorado run. So she was in Denver last night. She's playing Fort Collins here tonight. She's in Aspen tomorrow, and then another house show in Denver. She's recording a new record in December back home in Western Mass, and hopefully it's going to be out in June. That's kind of what we're shooting for. And then Wilderness, who we've talked about enough, they're playing the Downtown Artery. This is the second headlining show we've done there. I'm pretty excited.
Also a great venue and a membership-based venue, too.
I love that
which
spot.
Is a really
like,
cool take on a venue.
Every city needs a spot like that. Every city the size of Fort Collins should have a place like that. And Caitlin over there has been super helpful. Everyone over there has been great. So this is our second headliner over there, and we, a couple hours ago, sold over 100 tickets already, which is great for a band not from here. So we've done 2 residencies here at the Music District, which has been. I mean, we owe most of our new material to you guys.
But I really think it's a testament to how powerful the music is that Wilderness performs. There's a lot of bands from Denver, honestly, that play here and play New West Fest and play all the time, but they do have something extremely magnetic and energetic. It's really great music. There's a reason why people are crazy about them.
Really talented young people.
And nice.
And just nice to boot.
Can we start a rumor that they trash the apartments or something really?
They are party animals.
Really, like, expose on Wilderness?
Yeah. Just TVs all over the lawn.
We don't even have TVs up there because of bands like Wilderness. Yeah. We used to have TVs.
I'm looking at you, Josh Hester.
He's the one. You got to watch out for him.
He's the strong arm.
And you're going. How often do you go to your band's shows?
Whenever I can. Just to stand in the back with my arms crossed like a proud dad.
Yeah. Like a bouncer a little bit?
Like a supportive bouncer.
A kind bouncer.
I bounce negative vibes from the evening.
Dang. You should get that on a business card. That is sweet. Yeah. Do you travel? You travel too to see the bands for bigger shows or bigger opportunities?
Yeah. Like Wilderness did. We opened up for the Oh Hellos for like 3 weeks back last spring, and I came out to San Francisco and LA.
And I think it's interesting too. When you went back to 7S, you took Wilderness with you, but Still Tide signed on too. How is that, like, being in a band and managing them at the same time? Is there any conflict of interest, or does it work pretty seamlessly?
It's been pretty easy. I mean, I'm just playing bass. I'm not. I'm a pretty like.
Don't say just.
No, I'll say just.
Rhythm section's great.
It's important, but I'm a pretty down the middle of the road bass player. Because I'm a guitar player, and I think
disagree.
Well, listen to the Still Tide and tell me like if you think it should be like super funky. Like it should just be like bum 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 bum. It should be what I play.
What do you see for Still Tide? What's the trajectory that you're working on there?
Yeah, Anna's a rare bird because she's a not only amazingly talented songwriter and front person, but she's also an amazing guitar tech. Unfortunately, so she's traveling all the time.
Real good.
Yeah, she's like the best. She can just fix anything.
She gets the gigs where the players have like 27 guitars and alternate tunings and multiple capos, and she'll resolder someone's brain in the.
It's not like she's like checking for presidents of the United States of America where they only have like 3 strings.
Is that true?
Yeah, Google it, man.
Oh man.
But yeah, who's the band?
I can't
Devil
wait
Makes
to-
3. Like, how many
Yes.
banjos do they have on stage? Like 5 or something, and they're all in different tunings. She's insane.
Yeah.
So she's very talented. We're all big fans and friends.
Look at Fran. You said Fran.
Friends. We're all big friends.
That's like a friend fan. I'm a big Fran.
Yeah. But I'm excited for. We actually like came up to the Music District in, when was that? August?
Yes.
Me, Anna, Jake, and Joe, and kind of like just hunkered down for 3 days and like wrote a new record. Anna had most of the songs already done, but we kind of started like putting flesh on the bones. And
How much producing do you do as a band? Do you do a little bit of song rearrangement when she brings the song to the band?
a little bit. That's more like Joe Richmond's realm. I kind of try to stay out of that. I have opinions, but like I'm all about getting shit done more than like feeling involved. And Joe's so good at that stuff that I just kind of
Yeah.
I kind of purposefully take a back seat.
He knows how to like popify, or he can like solidify a song in a really cool, interesting way that I don't think a lot
Yeah.
of people have an ear for.
Joe's a record producer.
Yeah.
That's, I'm not. So I defer to him because that's what he's good at. Amongst other things.
Also a man of many talents, Joe Richmond.
Joe Richmond, look him up.
Don't worry, we're going to link to all of these people that we're mentioning,
Yeah.
including presidents of the United States.
Do you even know who that band is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but 3 strings. For some reason, when you say 3 strings, I just imagine them only having 3 fingers on their hand. I think it's because of this climbing movie I just saw where somebody didn't have all their digits. But
Was that the one where he climbs
yeah,
El Capitan or
Alex
whatever?
Honnold.
He doesn't have all his fingers?
No, he does. Oh God, this is like such a side note. I went to see this movie. Thank you, podcast listeners, for bearing with this. I went to see the movie. It's an incredible movie. It's called Free Solo. Alex Honnold does the first free solo without a rope up, like the main big part of El Cap. It's crazy.
Were you about to say buttress?
Buttress. The buttress. Yes, I used to be a rock climber. It's mortifying.
Is that the term? Buttress?
Buttress,
Okay.
like it's like where the rock sticks out.
Got it.
If it like has a yes, it is. I wanted to say the clinical term. It's not the clinical term. God, it's getting late, you guys. Well, the thing is, he has all his fingers. I was told he didn't even have all his fingers, which made it even that more amazing. But really, it turned out one of his climbing partners lost some to frostbite at one point.
Whoa. Django Reinhardt.
How many did he have?
I don't know, 3?
How many do you have?
11?
This is the expose that we were really trying to get to. Nate Meese.
It took an hour to get there, but he's only got 11. Only have all right. I'm off-roading. Let's get back on track here. Still tied.
Still tied.
Big year coming up. We have a show at Syntax on December 28th, which will be a single release show as well.
Cool.
Yeah, so we're like just figuring out how we're going to finish this new record and put the single out and do all that stuff.
What's the single called?
TBD.
Great name.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, right now we're calling it Keep It.
Okay.
I mean, if we're voting, I'm not going to vote for that name.
Okay.
But ultimately, I don't think it really matters. I don't know. I'm just excited for people to hear this stuff. It's been,
I can't wait.
yeah, it feels really good. It's like coming out at the right time. It feels like we have like creative momentum on our side. So I'm excited about that.
Is it so? When I was talking earlier about conflict of interest, is it hard to not want to spend more time working on Still Tide since you're creatively invested in the band too? Or I guess you have to make money for this is your living too. You have to diversify what you spend time.
Yeah, I try to, I love all my children equally.
It's not true. I have 2 of them and I love them the same.
No, like depending on where bands are at with different cycles, like have to be more attentive. But that's just time management, you know.
Yeah.
No clever answer there. Just real boring.
Love them all the same. I'm going to get the real answer later. When 7S is not listening.
That's not true. I love all my bands equally.
I believe that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're such a talented, interesting human. Truly, though, thank you for all the amazing, amazing work you do.
Thanks.
Okay, signing off, Erin Roberts.
Thank you so much for listening to the Musicians Help Desk podcast, brought to you by the Music District. We've linked more information about Nate's band, 7S management, the presidents of the United States of America, and other topics brought to light by this podcast, so that your research may be continued at your discretion. Please also check out the Music District on the World Wide Web. Find out about all the exciting things we have going on here at www.themusicdistrict.org. Until next time, this is Alicia for the Musicians Help Desk.